Welcome to My Health, My Way, a podcast dedicated to empowering and supporting women living with endometriosis, adenomyosis, and infertility. We are your hosts. I'm Alana, Marketing Business Manager, and Sarah, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. We are here to bring you stories and insights from a holistic perspective. Our aim is to foster a sense of community to help you navigate the challenges and triumphs that come with these conditions. Get ready to embark on a holistic adventure with us. Welcome to My Health, My Way, where health meets functional wisdom. Hey Sarah, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you, Alana?
Good. Now, today we are talking about another functional test that you do within your practice, and it is a HTMA, or a hair tissue mineral analysis. This is another type of test that gives you an overall indication of what's happening in somebody's body. So what exactly can a hair mineral test tell us about health that possibly a blood test and a stool test cannot do?
A HTMA shows your long-term mineral trends. Okay. We are getting a sample of about 3 to 4 centimeters of hair from the roots.
Yep.
Okay. It has to be uncoloured.
So not cutting off coloured hair at the bottom?
No.
Yep.
We're taking it from the roots.
Yep.
And it's really looking into more what your body is absorbing and storing.
Yep.
Not just what's circulating in your blood short term. Okay. Right now, this moment. Because when we're taking a blood test, it's more of like, you know, this is your body's way of, I guess, keeping balance or homeostasis. So it's also kind of like your emergency system, where oftentimes we find that things are still kind of in balance because the body wants to kind of keep balance there.
Yeah.
But then when we are looking at hair, it can reveal deeper patterns over 2 to 3 months. Okay, so how's your metabolism, your stress response, mineral reserves, and how's all that functioning behind the scenes?
Right.
So it's a snapshot of how your body is coping, not just surviving.
Right.
That's kind of a bit of the difference. So oftentimes we find that blood serum levels are still somewhat, I guess, A-OK or, you know, balanced. I mean, and that's what if we're looking at statistical ranges often.
Yeah.
At the expense of tissue levels.
Right.
Okay. So we really want to kind of get that view in more of, you know, what's been happening over time.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes when we look at it that way, we can pick up more on, like, you know, trends or where things are going.
Yep.
So if we're not addressing it, someone might end up with, you know, hypothyroidism or, you know, other things that we want to prevent.
Yes.
So we can eventually be more preventative in trying to have someone not develop hypothyroidism and
rather
actually,
than reacting.
yes, rather than reacting, because if we're just looking at blood, we're kind of just waiting for that diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
We're waiting for things to fall outside of those ranges to then go, okay, here's your pill, because now we have this.
Yeah.
When we probably could have picked up on this trend a long time
earlier,
before those blood ranges fell out of
And this is what you can tell from a hair mineral test.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And then why do these minerals matter so much when it comes to hormones and energy and mood? How do the minerals really affect the body?
Minerals, I like to call them the spark plugs of life.
Yeah.
Because they are, you know, they're so foundational to every single function in the human body. So they are incredibly important.
Yeah.
And when it comes to minerals, it's a lot about balance, okay, and how they are, I guess, essentially in relationship to one another. It's not just about looking at minerals in isolation, but they activate enzymes. As we know, our cycle is enzyme dependent. So for all of these you know, different hormones and pathways, and I guess essentially how our body makes hormones, we need enzymes, okay, to convert these hormones.
Yep.
So our cycle is very enzyme dependent. Right. But how does our body even make enzymes? Well, we need minerals for that.
Right.
So this is how we kind of, you know, understand the whole domino effect.
Yeah.
And go back in understanding the bigger picture.
Yep.
How does this even happen? Because if we don't have certain minerals, our body is going to start to struggle to make certain enzymes, and then we're also going to struggle to have, you know, certain hormones. So that's kind of like the domino effect.
So
like
definitely a knock-on effect, yeah.
Exactly right. So we definitely want to look at that. They also help to kind of like regulate nervous system, And obviously a lot of minerals like, magnesium, etc., really, really help to like calm the brain. Potassium helps to produce thyroid hormones. Zinc supports progesterone. So, there's all of these different minerals that do different things. So understanding that can really, really help to, make someone feel better. And specifically, I guess, I love to start off with minerals as well, because it really helps to increase someone's energy. And when we can increase someone's energy, they're often more likely to stick to protocols.
Yep.
Okay. Their motivation goes up to actually even stick to like a healing journey. And their body has more energy to start a healing process. So increasing energy is often what I like to see first.
Yep.
Okay, because when we can achieve that, we know that the body is starting to have a little bit more resources to spend towards all of these different functions that are struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. And then talking about magnesium and calcium, if these are high or low within the test, how can this affect the body?
They both are key minerals. They have calming effects, but they also have different functions.
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, calcium can really help someone, fall asleep, whereas magnesium can help someone stay asleep. Right. Okay. So they have a bit of like different functions, but they have similar effects on the body. If calcium is high, I guess the way I like to explain it is it can make someone feel like, a bit mentally dull or tired, emotionally flat. Calcium, if you imagine calcium like this little, bit of like a powdery substance, and you think of your thyroid glands as like butterfly wings, if you have too much of that powder sitting on the butterfly wings, it weighs it down.
They're not going to flap.
Everything kind of slows down. Okay,
yeah.
So if you have too much calcium, we often see slow metabolism. Okay, everything kind of slows down.
Yeah.
If we have too little, and things are off balance, then the butterfly wings go crazy. Okay, they go really, really fast, and so we often see faster metabolisms as a result. So it's really, really important that these minerals get balanced, and it's not about so much of a take this for that approach. It's understanding how these minerals interact with each other as well, because calcium and magnesium are in a direct relationship. They want to be balanced. Okay, if you think of a muscle that contracts and then releases, this is actually a function that magnesium and calcium tightly regulate.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they're not in balance, then that function can become quite stagnant or painful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to make sure that we don't have too much calcium there in the tissues. Okay, it's actually really, really important. And that magnesium can essentially, release that contraction. Yeah. So it's really, really important that these two are in,
and
balanced.
People who have cramps, it could be anywhere, but, in legs and things, it can be magnesium deficiency or,
exactly right. It could be.
And when some people think about calcium, they think about, I need to drink more milk, or it's going to help and fix my bone density and things like that. But really, that is not just what calcium does. Calcium has an overall effect on the body.
Absolutely, yeah. It's needed for different functions. And I mean, it's true, dairy is a really, really good source of calcium. But for the body to actually regulate that calcium, it needs magnesium. So again, it just shows how they are, in a direct relationship. Yeah. And if magnesium is something like magnesium is low, someone can obviously feel, more anxious. We see that, wired but tired, have poor sleep, those kind of things. So high calcium or even high magnesium, which, sometimes I see that, doesn't necessarily mean that we always have too much. It can actually mean that the body is not utilizing it properly. Yeah. Okay. So we're not regulating that very mineral very well. Yeah. So what I often see is a high magnesium when someone is in extreme adrenal burnout.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So we see a lot of low sodium and potassium. Yep. The body kind of loses the ability to regulate magnesium very well, and magnesium shows up high. Right. Really, really high. Not necessarily a true picture of an excess of magnesium. Can be a picture of adrenal burnout. Yeah. And I also always like to explain that magnesium is obviously a intracellular mineral. It needs to get into the cell. Right. For magnesium to get into the cell, I like to call sodium and potassium like the door openers to the cell for magnesium to get in. Yeah. So we see a lot of low sodium potassium and elevated magnesium. Now that's not great. Can't get into the cell. Yeah. So what I sometimes see with those people is that they feel awful when they take magnesium.
Yeah.
or they will literally fall asleep
Yep.
the minute they start taking magnesium.
Yep.
Magnesium isn't right for everyone. I have
Yep.
met so many clients that come to me and said, my naturopath has told me I need to take all of this magnesium. It makes me feel awful.
Yep.
And then they show me their test and that magnesium is through the roof. I'm like, of course it makes you feel awful.
Yeah.
Because at this point in time, magnesium isn't right for you. It doesn't mean that your body doesn't need it. It just means that we have to balance out other minerals before we can give you magnesium.
Yeah.
I have met so many people that really cannot do magnesium. And so I really, really always talk about this because I feel like it's one of the most commonly recommended minerals out
definitely,
there.
yeah.
Everyone just needs to take magnesium.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's not true because even those people that are in extreme burnout do need magnesium.
Yep.
But it's not the right time for them right now.
They need to be able to absorb that magnesium in the cells, and if they don't have the right building blocks to be able to absorb it, it's just going to
regulate
be
it
too much in the body,
Yes.
and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not really being regulated properly, so we need to have a different approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do all these ratios mean within the test? We have a calcium to potassium ratio. We have a sodium to magnesium ratio. Why are these more important than the actual individual mineral levels themselves?
Ratios show us how minerals interact.
Okay.
And how your body is functioning overall. So what we can get a look into is, for example, looking at the calcium to potassium ratio. We can look into thyroid activity.
Okay.
Do we have an underactive thyroid?
Right.
We can also look at sodium and magnesium, looking at adrenal strength.
Okay.
Or calcium to phosphorus, which shows us the metabolic rate.
Yeah.
Is it fast? Is it slow?
Yeah.
Somewhere more balanced? Okay, so these things are really, really important because when we understand someone's metabolism, we can actually really work on their diet and perfect it for them. So meaning if someone is a really, really slow metabolizer, okay, we don't necessarily want to give them too much protein, okay? Doesn't mean they don't need protein, but it might be a little bit more balanced or a little less than someone who's a fast metabolizer, who needs more slow burning fuel, which is protein and fats.
Right.
Okay. They may need to eat a little bit more carbs. Okay. So it actually depends on someone's metabolism, what fuel we need to give them. Okay.
And then this is something that you can then work out with the person individually.
Yes, exactly.
I recommend this type of food for you. This is going to be better. I know that you sit down with people and you get them to do a food diary. You can then have a look and see, right, well, this is not going to work for your mineral levels. You should be cutting this, you should be adding this.
Yes.
This is then an individual approach.
Exactly right.
Because it's not just a blanket for everybody. I'm not going to be the same as the next lady that comes in. I as everyone already knows, I don't have endometriosis, but somebody who might have endometriosis is going to need something different to what my mineral levels are, to what their mineral levels are, because we're all individuals and we're all different. So it's not just a blanket thing.
Absolutely.
Now, seeing toxic metals on the test, should I be worried if it's high?
Yes and no. Looking at these toxic metals isn't necessarily just to kind of go in and do a detox of heavy metals. I think this is what many people think when they see that. They go, oh my God, I need to detox all these. Sometimes it's important to understand perhaps the source if we can find out. Yep. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients showed up with very, very high arsenic levels. Okay, so they were that high that the laboratory actually said, do you want to do a retest of perhaps some pubic hair, something that is not exposed to the external environment, so we can narrow down perhaps, where's this all coming from? Yeah. Is this perhaps a food source? Is this an external source? Because we may have to work this one out. Because when we have arsenic levels that high, it sets off everything. Like it draws on so many minerals. It disrupts hormones. It can even cause cancer. So it's really, really important that we look at that. And for this particular client, we worked out that she was eating a lot of rice products. Okay, arsenic is actually in rice products. That's not to say don't eat rice. If you're eating rice, obviously soak it, rinse it. And she was obviously gluten-free, and a lot of gluten-free products are made out of rice.
Rice-based, yeah.
Rice-based. But more so the brown rice. So she was eating all the brown rice products, which can be even higher in arsenic because they still have that husk.
That husk, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, really important that we sometimes figure out the source so we can lower that, but then also work on increasing minerals, because essentially your minerals look after your toxic metals.
Yeah.
If you have enough, the ratios are right, your minerals look after your heavy metals. So there's no need to actually do something like a detox because your minerals look after that for you.
Yeah.
But sometimes in these cases where something like arsenic is that high, we may have to see if we can work out the source, or if it's something in the environment. But yeah, in the end, her pubic hair samples were still high.
Okay.
So we figured it perhaps might be a food.
Yep.
She reduced the rice products.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of the toxic metals that you see within this test? So we've talked about arsenic.
Yeah. Mercury.
Mercury.
I see a bit of mercury. They're probably the most common, arsenic and mercury. But there's also others, obviously, that I sometimes see. Cadmium. I see a bit of cadmium.
Yep.
Aluminium. And I see a bit of aluminium as well, Yep. They're probably the most common, I'd say. And a lot of times it's sources like, obviously it's in our waters as well. If they're not drinking filtered water, it can come from that. I mean, sometimes even, if people smoke, or even if they live in the household where someone smokes, they can be exposed to certain metals, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much the ones I see the most.
Yep. Before we jump back into the second half of our show, I would like to share how you can work with Sarah. As a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, Sarah takes a holistic root cause approach to your well-being. Say goodbye to merely treating symptoms and hello to uncovering the root causes of your health challenges. Sarah utilises cutting-edge functional testing to get to the heart of the matter and design a personalised plan just for you. Just remember, she's only a click away. You can connect with her on Instagram under NutriRoot_health for valuable insights, health tips, and a peek into the world of functional diagnostic nutrition. If you're more of an email person, drop her a message directly at sarah@nutriroothealth.com.au. That information will be in the show notes.
Don't miss out on this opportunity to work with me, your dedicated health detective.
Now let's dive back into the second half of our podcast. Stay tuned for more intriguing conversations. Now, what is a slow metabolic type? And how does that relate to my energy, my thyroid, my weight? Because these are all interconnected.
Exactly. If your metabolic rate is slow, it basically means that your thyroid is functioning more slowly, okay? Your adrenal function might be running low. You might feel a bit tired, sluggish, those kind of things. I also often find that these people have cold hands and feet. Okay?
Poor circulation.
Yeah, poor circulation. They might need a little bit more coffee to function. Okay, they might grab for that coffee a little bit more often than your average person. This is where we see often things like chronic stress, nutrient depletion, those kind of things. So, yeah.
Yep. What are some of the results in green? What are some in white? And what are some outside the bars? And what does the colouring on the graphs mean? We're going to pop up for those watching, we're going to pop up a little graph here. But for those and all those different colours, what does this mean?
So the nutritional elements are in the blue.
Yep.
Okay, and the reference range is kind of like in the whitish area, and we kind of want to be sort of like in the middle of the whitish area there, which says reference interval. That's where we kind of want to be. Okay, so we often see a lot of lows, and then we see some highs, which is lots of imbalances, which is not what we want to see, but that's what I see a lot. And then obviously the reds, the toxic elements. Okay, so your heavy metals that you kind of want to look at a little bit. And the additional elements are the ones in the green. Now, they're not necessarily toxic in normal amounts, so low amounts. They sort of can become toxic as they go into the higher levels.
Right.
So you may sometimes want to look at things like bismuth is actually in a lot of makeup and a lot of beauty products. Okay. And it's interesting because I had just looked at mine. I was really high in that. And this is also before I changed to all more natural mineral products.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can absolutely affect us. And then that's pretty much that. Yeah.
Now, can the HTMA test explain why a person may be tired all the time but can't fall asleep? That why they can't, if they do fall asleep, then they can't stay asleep? Is this something that the HTMA can figure out?
Yeah, this was actually my problem. And so the HTMA helps uncover hidden stress patterns. Okay, so we can look at this, obviously, mineral burnout, low sodium and potassium. I see a lot, which can affect adrenal and energy production, and low magnesium or calcium, which can impact sleep quality. So these imbalances are rarely caught on blood tests because they'll probably still come back normal.
Yeah.
And you'll be sent back out the door. But yeah, those imbalances can explain the wide but tired feeling. And I remember and this was it's a long time ago, but I used to suffer from insomnia for years and years and years. Yeah. And before I even did all the functional tests that I eventually had run, I actually started off with working on minerals before anything else. So that's how I actually got into it. And I remember I started doing sodium and potassium cocktail with whole food vitamin C and high dose magnesium.
Yep.
And that helped me immensely.
Right.
So this was just a pure mineral approach
of
high dosing magnesium, and I just figured out my sweet spot that I needed at nighttime to fall asleep, and then do the sodium potassium for my adrenals. And that was and then obviously eventually I took those tests as well, and as you can see, I mean, my sodium potassium was still quite low there. Even my magnesium was still quite low. So I don't want to know what those levels were, when I started doing it, but it just shows how much my body needed it.
You needed
and
it,
I responded so well to it that I knew that was the right thing to take.
Yeah.
I was kind of playing around with it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes these things can really, really help for adrenal burnout, specifically sodium and potassium.
Yeah.
The most adrenal dependent mineral is actually sodium. And yet we are telling everyone to cut out your salt. Cut out those terrible salts, okay? Go and grab your mineral salts and put them on your foods. Plenty of, unless you have kidney issues, of course. But if that's not the case, I would be hesitant to go too low on that sodium because your adrenals need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's the link between a mineral imbalance and things like anxiety, PMS? I'm guessing this is, again, one of those things that are linked.
Yes, absolutely. So we know low magnesium, as I said earlier, can absolutely make someone be more anxious. And low zinc or high copper can worsen PMS. Okay, so high copper is something that I see a lot where we have a lot of liver congestion.
Okay.
Because copper is actually a mineral that has to be metabolized by the liver. Okay. It cannot really leave the body unless it,
goes through
the
liver.
liver.
Yep.
So when we see it high, we know that we have a liver congestion issue.
Okay.
The body is kind of starting to store that copper, which is not meant to do. It's not meant to store copper as such. And then if in relation we have low zinc, it can really, really upset hormonal balance. Which then, again, can increase things like PMS, but also mood swings and irritability. So, but low copper is also a problem, okay? Copper is one of those minerals you really want to have in balance. Because if it is low, copper actually is needed for iron metabolism. Yeah. So to regulate iron in the body, you need copper.
Yes.
So what I see a lot is copper-induced anemia.
Yes.
Because iron is still A-okay, but copper is so low, it doesn't matter how much iron you take in, you'll probably still end up being incredibly low. And this is actually something that I struggled with for, over 10 years. Yeah. And I was just taking copious amounts of iron. Yeah. And it never fixed the issue until I learned that my body needed copper, but also retinol A. Yeah. So retinol A comes from animal fats, and I was never really eating a lot of meats back then. Yeah. And so I was quite low in that as well. And those two things are truly needed for iron regulation. Yeah. So again, no mineral in the body regulates itself. Okay, they all have cofactors and other vitamins that are required regulate that.
They all need a little friend to help them out.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's not like you take in, some synthetic iron and that becomes, bioavailable iron to your body like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to convert that.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the cofactors, you will end up taking iron for 10 years like me, and you will still be low in iron.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you got to figure out, what else is it that my body is missing?
Yeah.
And obviously, things like low stomach acid plays into that. If you have low iron, probably not going to be absorbing much from the foods we're eating.
Yeah.
So there's another contributing factor.
Yeah.
So, these are all the things that I see so much of, where I'm like, this can actually be easily fixed, but we need to understand what is it that's causing this, low, whatever it is, copper or iron, or, and how do they, work together.
Yeah.
And copper is, the problem is too, we're not really going to get anywhere in conventional medicine, because I have tried to have this conversation with, my GP. We have a good relationship.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And I don't push him too much, I do respect what they do. But yeah, when I've asked for, a complete picture and to include copper on, my iron panel, he said, why would you want to look at copper? Copper's got nothing to do with iron. And so, we're not going to get anywhere because they would never look at it like that, because their obviously training just isn't there. So copper is so important for iron regulation. So, yeah, I see a lot of copper-induced anemia.
Yeah. And you and I have spoken about this before, is that people then go, and if they're low in iron, the GP might recommend an iron infusion. And then the person can have an iron infusion, but if their copper levels are low and their iron circulatory system, or the system that regulates the iron in the body, is not doing well, then this can actually have adverse effects rather than positive effects. And so this test can then basically see where you're at. And whether or not, hey, yeah, GP, I'll take that iron infusion, fantastic. But if you don't have the copper, if you don't have all the other minerals supporting it, then it is probably going to do more harm than good.
Oh, absolutely. And this is something that I personally experienced. I had 3 iron infusions within 18 months, and by the third, I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
Because I think my body was just at a point of going, what on earth am I going to do with all this iron? You just keep giving me iron, but it's not what I'm asking for. I literally thought that I have to go to hospital. I felt awful.
Yeah.
And that's also where my crazy bleeding started, and it just never stopped. It was just continuous, crazy, bleeds. My body wasn't asking for more and more iron. My body truly was asking for these cofactors. And I have not touched iron for, it would have to be about 5 years now. Yeah. And I've never felt better.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's, I just don't touch this synthetic iron anymore. I don't need it. But yeah, it's crazy.
And it's one of those things that the GP always does check for in a blood test. Oh, you've got low iron. Here's an iron, take an iron supplement and do this, but without knowing what minerals are going to actually unlock that and work with it.
Yeah. But also understanding, why is it low in the first place? I always had heavy bleeds, and that was basically what I was told the reason was.
Yeah.
I said, we must just have heavy bleeds, that's why. It's like, no. Women can bleed heavy. That doesn't mean they have to be low on iron, okay? Yeah. Our body can actually replenish that system quite quickly, because we have an internal iron recycling system. So our internal iron recycling system actually gives us around about 20 milligrams of iron a day.
Right.
Okay, so we actually need only a little bit extra from food a day. So it's actually not that much.
Yeah.
But that internal iron recycling system needs all its ingredients to work.
Its minerals.
And when it does have those, you'll be surprised how wise the body is in giving you plenty. Yeah. But for a lot of women, that system isn't working. And we're not asking how to fix the system. We just keep topping up the system, but missing all of the... It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a different example. But, if you've got an oil leak, somewhere, and you just keep topping up the car with oil, well, guess what? It'll be low again, won't it? Because you haven't figured out where the leak is. Yeah. You can't just keep topping it up. No. You can't just keep topping up your body with iron. Yeah. If it's asking for cofactors. Yeah. You end up low again.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Now, this is not my natural hair colour. Okay. So if somebody does have dyed or treated hair, can they still do this test? If I wanted to do the test, can I still do it?
You'd have to grow it out about 3 to 4 centimeters. So I don't know, how much do you have right now?
I don't know. How are these greys looking? Yeah.
You've got a couple of centimeters there, I think. You've got about, you probably have about 2 centimeters there.
Yep.
But now you probably would have to grow it out another couple of months to have enough.
Yep.
For that. But, sometimes I recommend if women still want to, cover their greys, just do it up the top here.
Yep.
Where you can see it, and just leave the back.
Yep.
The back of the head.
Yep.
Don't do anything there.
Yep.
Let that grow out where you can't see underneath.
Yep. Yeah,
and just take a sample from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
That's
you
great.
can absolutely do that.
And then does the HTMA test help with adrenal fatigue and burnout? Are we going to find why we're burning out?
It's actually one of the best tools.
Excellent.
For adrenal burnout and looking at adrenal and thyroid activity. Absolutely. We're looking at sodium, potassium and magnesium levels sort of more in the background. What's been happening, over the past few months is what's going to give us more of the bigger picture, which is what we want to see. What has been happening?
Yeah.
How is your body using those minerals? How is it absorbing it? How is it storing them? That's what's truly going to, reveal so much more. Because those sodium, potassium typically signal, burnout if they're really, really low.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they can be really, really high. I guess, and this is where I always talk about being a little bit cautious in obviously having someone look at your HTMA that understands these different patterns and how they can show up, but also understand how to correlate back to the client, okay? Because we can't just look at these mineral levels and go, okay, you're low in these, here's your supplements. I see this all the time.
Yeah. Now, if I've already had a blood test done through the GP, how is this test, especially if my blood test came back normal, how is the HTMA test going to be or give you any extra information if my blood test just come back normal?
HTMA often reveals kind of like what the blood test misses, or at least where the blood test just falls within range.
Okay.
I think if you look at bloods more from a functional perspective, you can actually see a lot more. So a lot of women that show up with low potassium are low in potassium on their blood test. It's just that they still kind of just fall within range, but functionally they're already outside of that range.
Yeah.
By far, it's just that it doesn't get picked up on
a
normal blood test oftentimes. Okay, so this is where I kind of like to look at both, because I can often see the correlation between blood and HTMA. It's just that it wasn't picked up on because the ranges are so wide. Because as a general population, and I always often make this point, it's like, who goes to have their bloods taken? I mean, I can't even remember the last time I had my bloods taken, but, generally, who are the people that have their bloods taken a lot? They're not generally healthy people.
No, it's if you're only going if you're unwell.
Yeah, you generally do that. I mean, there's only a few that might do that as, a general checkup every now and then because they want to know.
Yeah.
But generally, people don't have their bloods taken unless they feel like there's something, they need to find out. These are generally not people that are well.
Yep.
And this is what, your statistical ranges are based on. Okay, it's generally an unhealthy population, which is what we are. As a population, we are quite unhealthy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So finding your normal, your optimal in those ranges is impossible, which is why you're going to be sent back out the door.
Yeah.
And this is where HTMA can show us so much more.
Yeah, yeah. Now, a lot of people are taking a multivitamin that they get in the supermarket. Can I just buy a mineral supplement, or does my multivitamin cover me, or why does it have to be so specific?
All right, throw your multivitamins out, please. I hate them. Oh, gosh, I hate multivitamins. I don't think there's anything that makes or gives us more of a false sense of security than taking a multivitamin and thinking, oh, that'll do.
Yeah.
I think I had this one, I think this is, I don't know, this was years ago, woman share of how she had this terrible day of eating. She went to McDonald's and KFC and she had a McFlurry and she had a Snickers, and then at the end she said, but at least I took my multivitamin.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, yeah, I don't think that's going to help. Nope. But anyway, so I think it gives us this false sense of safety where we think we're doing something that is doing something which is not.
Yeah.
Multivitamins tell us nothing about, what is it actually that your body needs. They're just generic supplements, assuming that we all need the same things.
Yeah.
And in fact, we can imbalance, further minerals by taking things we don't need.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't, there's this myth going around that if your body doesn't need it, it's just going to flush it out. You're just going to poop it out.
Yeah.
Well, as a matter of fact, your body's going to try and regulate these minerals you're taking in, and perhaps if it can't, well, it might even store them.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't necessarily just poop it all out, depending on what it is. If you're taking high dose vitamin C, you're probably just going to poop it out. When we talk about certain minerals that your body doesn't need, doesn't necessarily just poop it out.
Right.
So you don't just want to take random minerals.
Yep.
Because you can offset, balances.
Yep.
So generic supplements often contain imbalanced ratios.
Right.
Like, we talked a little bit about ratios today. It's actually really important that we get ratios right.
Yep.
A lot of times the mineral supplements that I recommend based off of a HTMA are higher dosed because to actually fix a picture of depletion, you can't just take your 50 milligrams of magnesium.
Yeah.
Like, it's not anywhere close enough.
Yeah.
And that's what you get in your general store.
Right.
Okay. The ratios aren't right. They're generally not high dosed enough. And sometimes the quality is awful. So you get a lot of fillers in there that hurt your gut.
Yeah.
So you're being very counterproductive by taking something that hurts your gut in the end.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a lot of or any multivitamins that I recommend. I recommend understanding what it is specifically that your body needs.
Yep.
Mineral supplements, there's some mineral drops that you can, add to your water and things like that are probably quite safe to take. But yeah, generally I would find out what exactly is it that your body is missing and wanting, and then grab that.
Yeah.
Rather than a multivitamin.
Yeah, and then you can find all that out through a HTMA test.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then look, how often should you retest? Say I come to you and I've had my HTMA and then we've worked out everything, we've got it, we're on a protocol, we know what's going on. How long should I then wait and then retest again?
I'd say anywhere between 4 to 6 months is probably a good time frame. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That gives your body enough time to, regulate and
put you on, whatever minerals and vitamins you actually need, and then see if that's working for you. Yeah.
And then what kind of changes do people usually need to make after doing this test? So we've done the HTMA test, you have interpreted it for me. Now what changes do I need to make?
This is where I often go quite deep with people, especially if I obviously see a lot of women in adrenal burnout, is understanding, their stress levels, their lifestyle, their diet.
Yep.
What are we doing on a daily? That's really where we start.
Yep.
Nutrition-wise, obviously, this is where, we look at the metabolic rate and adjust nutrition accordingly. And then I recommend the minerals.
Yep.
And they start taking those as well as making those other changes. And we often see within a short period of time an increase in energy. Okay. Sleep improves, those kind of things. And that's really what we want to see as a result of that. If we're not seeing it, then we have to kind of reassess and go, hey, what are we doing?
Yep.
But yeah, we can't just take the supplements. Okay. Yeah. That doesn't work. If we're having a terrible diet and we're still under, severe stress and we don't do anything to counterbalance that, then we're going to burn through those minerals so quickly, especially magnesium, that, it's probably not going to work very well.
It's not going to go. All right. Well, I think that the HTMA test really does give you a really good overview, especially of where your body has been and where you actually need to go.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you for explaining all of that to me. And I think in the next one, we will be talking about another test that you run and how that can actually help, again, give you an overall picture of what's going on.
Yes, we will.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the enlightening discussions and insights. If you're ready to take charge of your health journey and unravel the mysteries of endometriosis, adenomyosis, and infertility, don't forget to connect with Sarah on Instagram at NutriRoot_health or shoot her an email at sarah@nutriRootHealth.com.au. That will be in the show notes as well.
Remember, your health is an ongoing journey, and I'm your detective, ready to help you crack the case. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes, and until the next time, take care of yourselves.